understand what's happening. We know very little. Welcome, everybody. I'm Mark Halpern. Joining us now, our audience on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in here with folks on the two-way platform. We are, as the cable news networks are, we're scrambling to understand what's occurred. All we have so far is what the president has said, which was the mission was a success. And American pilots are out of the airspace. 3 different sites hit. And so as we'll be watching the coverage with you here, you can see now, even on a Saturday night, all the networks are now up with live coverage. Anderson is in Israel and is doing primary anchoring from then. The president's expected to speak at 10 Eastern time, less than 2 hours from now, to talk more about the mission. And we suspect between now and then we'll learn at least somewhat more about what's happened. So let's listen to Fox for just a moment, and we'll assemble our group while you go to Fox Audio, please. Just one moment. Paul, are we able to do that?
And the president said this in his Truth Social post, is that a full payload of bombs, those massive ordnance penetrators, the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, were dropped at Fordo. And as we have reported, there are 2 entrances to Fordo. So at least 2 bombs at each 2 entrances, which suggests at least 2 B-2s were involved over Fordo. My suspicion is that there were more. And then you have the 2 other sites, Natanz, which also has an underground enrichment facility. The Israelis had not been able to reach or take out that facility despite the last 10 days of bombing. And so now U.S. warplanes, likely another B-2 bomber, had dropped that MOP, the 30,000-pound bunker buster, on Natanz. And then you also have Isfahan, a 3rd site south of Tehran. And that is also a very significant enrichment facility. So those B-2 bombers, it's possible that as everybody was looking west for the B-2s flying towards Guam, that in fact there was another package of squadron of B-2s that were flying east from Whiteman. It's about a 15-hour trip from Whiteman in Missouri to the Middle East, to Iran. And those bombers often fly round trip, and it takes them about 30 hours to get home. But they are out of danger tonight. They are not in Iranian airspace anymore, according to the president. The other thing I can point out, Brett, is that this is an operation in the last 18 years since I've been at the Pentagon. I've never seen such operational security. There was nobody speaking about this, any of the preparations. There was a complete lockdown, almost a blackout of information for the last few days. I'm sitting here in the Pentagon right now. I can tell you the hallways are empty, and all of the information is coming right now out.
Did we just lose the audio there?
An opportunity to make her host.
Yep. I'm going to fix that right now. Hold on a second, Mark.
That's all right. While you do that, let's bring Dan in. Dan, I know you've already been on Twitter, so but based on what we've heard so far, what are your thoughts?
I mean, just that it is remarkable that they kept this, a secret the way they did. It's great that they were able to do it successfully. It appears that they're out, that the bombs hit their targets, that they achieved their mission. And I think now we just hope and pray that this leads to a successful outcome. Whether you supported the bombing or not, we've done it. And you just now have to hope for the best. And, we'll get the battle assessment here, more widely in the next few hours and days. and see if this is it. Is Israel satisfied? Are we satisfied? And what do the Iranians do next?
Mark Bednar, may I bring you in? There you go. Mark Bednar, I used to work on Capitol Hill, senior leadership. Mark, there was no congressional authorization of this act. How do you think the Hill will respond to this?
My apologies for the darkness as I'm putting my 3-year-old to bed.
You're nice to make time. You're multitask.
Here, Sam, can you say hi?
Hey, dude.
I think, well, right now, the president's going to get a lot of leeway because of the secrecy required. Obviously, there's going to be a massive, massive demand for information as we go forward in this upcoming week. Congress is back in session. Of course, this is like the last big push for one big beautiful bill. So there's going to be a lot of heightened scrutiny, and there's going to, on both sides of the aisle, they're just going to say we need to be informed about what's going on. And so, yeah.
Skank is saying and saying, skank and skank say, skank can say, skank.
Yeah, and
the way I can.
Sam made a good point.
Yeah.
Skank.
But there's going to be a lot of scrutiny going forward.
Yeah. Last question, and then we'll let you go. We'll let you go back to full parenting. When would you expect a briefing? Are they going to get a brief? Would they get a briefing tonight under normal circumstances? Oh, sorry, you're muted.
Right now, this is when you kind of alert the Gang of Eight, or at least the immediate, like the speaker and probably the leaders, and then a further Gang of Eight debriefing early next week, and then probably a classified conference or congressional-wide briefing later on in the week. But this has to be a ground up. This has to be a request from leadership, probably joint four corners, to say we all want to be briefed immediately in order to make sure that Congress is all on the same page, and that if this requires extra resources or if this requires extra deployments that are kind of outside the scope of what's been appropriated, there's a role for Congress here. There's a role for Congress here, but that being said, the Republicans are going to give the president like the leash that he needs right now. But questions will come.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Go back to bedtime. Very grateful to you.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, that the Gang of Eight is the speaker, the minority leader in the House, the Senate majority leader, the Senate minority leader, and then the chair and ranking member of the Senate and House Intelligence Committees.
Yeah. Let's go to CNN audio, please. Mark Kimmett is talking.
And certainly an American presence would not be feasible. And it's unlikely that the international community would step in after any kind of, say, targeted assassination of key leadership and a leadership vacuum in that country.
I'm going to bring in our correspondents here with me in just a moment. First, I do
go to Fox, please.
Brett McGurk. Brett,
he does suggest that this may be a limited action if the Iranians turn around and get to the negotiating table to try to, in his words, find peace. But as has been suggested over recent days, if, and there you see the Truth Social post on your screen, you can take it full if you want, and he says to get back to peace, there is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Now, as has been said over recent days, if there is a retaliation attack on the U.S. in any way, shape, or form, on any U.S. bases, on any U.S. facilities, on U.S. tourists overseas or at home, all bets are off the table, and this likely, the message being sent is that this is not a limited strike, if that's the case. Let's go back to Trey Yingst on the ground in Israel. Trey, I've been talking to you for many days, and the barrage from Iran has seemed to be intense, maybe not as intense tonight. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't seen any Iranian missiles tonight as the region is starting to react to this news that American planes targeted Iranian nuclear facilities. I just received a text from Israel's former defense minister, Yoav Gallant. He says President Trump took a bold decision for the United States, for Israel, for all of humanity. The world is now a safer place. Gallant is one of the men who planned the Israeli strikes against these nuclear programs in Iran. And we spoke with him earlier in the week. He called on President Trump to take this decisive action because it would stabilize, in his words, the region.
Okay, we take that down for a second.
Closer and closer to a nuclear
if
weapon.
You want to be in on the conversation, please raise your hand. We'll go to folks on a rolling basis. There's all sorts of things in my Twitter feed that are from credible places, either tweeted or retweeted, about what's going on. And various, reactions to this, including, what Iran might do to respond. What kind of force America would retaliate with if that did occur. And then all sorts of stuff about the possibility of regime change. And we'll talk about that as I sort through some of these tweets to see if they're worth discussing or not. So bring folks in. If you're watching on the two-way platform and you want to be in the conversation, raise your hand. Tonight, different guidance about smack, all the smack about the Ayatollah you wish to put in the chat. In YouTube, that's fine, but no other smack in the chat. Peace, love, and understanding, even during war, is how we do it here. So bring folks in. We'll continue to aggregate and bring you stuff from both TV and social media and our inboxes. But let's go to Seth. Seth, unmute, tell folks where you are, what's on your mind.
Hey, I've been a listener since day one of this program. It's the best program in all of politics.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
I have to say, I grew up on the mission field. My dad was a pastor. I lived in Israel as a kid, and they don't mess around with their military. So, like, when I see this type of exercises happen, you have to imagine that there's been a lot of kind of cooperation in the last couple of months with this. Like when people were saying when Trump went overseas that there was kind of like he was giving the cold shoulder to the Israelis, this has to feel like a massive head fake. Like this has to have been planning on the ground. I mean, to be able to coordinate attacks like that, I mean, you imagine Mossad has to be working really, really closely with the U.S. military. You would at least imagine on this.
Yeah, Seth, I'm sure they are. And I'll tell you one of the things about tonight that I think it's so striking is you're right, this required careful planning. But I will say this is probably the longest gestating military plan in American history because they've been looking at this mission for, I think I'm bad at dates, of 30 years, right?
Yeah.
At least 20 years. So the mountain's in the same place it's always been. I think the depth of the production process is, if it's different, it's not meaningfully different. So I'm not saying something couldn't have gone wrong, but they certainly had the opportunity here to work on this for a long time.
And I imagine the CIA had no lack of information from the inside when it comes to assets.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like if they had to have known whether stuff was coming in or out, and they weren't going to let things go any farther. But
it's apparent now that Trump's had 2 calls with Netanyahu 2 weeks ago, and then Israel attacked a few days later, and then earlier this week, and now we attacked. So I think when they speak, we should pay attention, in the coming days. They're clearly coordinating at the hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's ever been any data that, I mean, not only is it logical, not only are there sources that make it clear that it's happened and it's happening, but also they practically say it in public, right? I mean, they're not, they're using legalese to deny some things, but not that. Seth, anything else you want to say or ask?
No, I do have an idea for a shirt. Just 2A on the front.
Yeah.
No smacking on the back. I'd buy it in a second.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Grateful to you for being part of the community and for your kind words about us. Grateful to you.
Mark, one thing as you look at guests, that as we are a political show, I will be curious if this will impact the New York mayoral race, where there, the support for Israel and the gentleman, the progressive who's surging, has been under fire for some previous comments. Does this impact that race?
Yeah, it certainly will be at a minimum blockout conversation. Again, if you want to be on the conversation, raise your hand. Again, I'll remind everybody that the president is due to speak at 10 Eastern time. And as of now, he's really the only source that we have about what's occurred. I've seen no readouts, past his prologue with the president, he will get to say his piece. In other words, typically the administration, on an occasion like this where there's news, the president's broken on True Social, and he's announced, everybody's told not to speak. And I am texting folks, but I don't expect to hear back because, again, in a case like this, they want to let the president break his own story. Raleigh, welcome in. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind.
I'm in Austin, Texas, and I worry about, like, well, it feels like to me this is the United States entering the war on the side of Israel. I was just about to say Iran. That was a mistake, but it feels like to me this is the United States entering the war on the side of Israel. And I worry about, like, what is this going to do to the regime in Iran? I was reading articles just a few days ago about how the regime's already tenuous and it's not, it's probably about to collapse. And then I wonder what's going to happen to Iran because it's this massive country. As we learned from the Tucker Carlson interview, with Ted Cruz, is this massive country. And I do worry about, if it falls into sectarian violence. And I don't hear enough reports about what's going on there, what kind of effect these bombings are going to have on the regime there. And so I want to know more about that than necessarily the immediate after effects of these bombs. Like what are we going to see there in the next 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we could have the world's leading experts on it. I'm not sure they could tell you with any certainty or specificity. I will say, I think in my litany of things, of course, to watch for now, one is if Iran steps up its attacks on Israel and it produces different targets or not, and obviously American assets throughout the region, really throughout the world. There's first reaction I've seen from a member of Congress, John Fetterman, is responded by saying the president made the correct move. Dan, thoughts on Raleigh's question?
Yeah, no, I think, Mark, you've said it here the last week, which is if you could wave a magic wand, you'd love to do a focus group and a poll of the people in Iran to know what they're thinking. And I think, Raleigh, the hope has been that there is frustration. We've seen some kind of signs of frustration in Iran the last few years. We had the Arab Spring, I forget how many years ago now, where people thought Iran was on the verge potentially of a revolution from the inside. So it's a great question, and ultimately the Iranian people will have to demand a change, support that change, and ensure that change.
Okay, and I mean I don't take up much time, so I'm just going to say this and then stop. But I do worry, like, if it evolves into like civil war and sectarian violence, like his regime change isn't always a good thing. But anyway, that's all I'll say.
You're right.
Raleigh, thanks for that. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty. The president did another Truth Social post in which he announced what had already been reported, that he is giving a speech at 10 Eastern time to the nation. And he also said in the post that, sorry, hold on one second, just having a little computer issue. There we go. He also said in the post that now is the time for Iran to agree to, to make peace. So, it wouldn't be out of character for this president to do this mission and then, go back to the Iranians and say, don't dare strike the United States. And do you want more? Or do you want to reach a settlement? I continue to think a settlement will be difficult. There were great reporting out of several Western news organizations today on what is, as Dan referenced, going on in Iran. And the gist of everything I read 4 different pieces, 2 US, 2 British, is that the Iranians people are they appear to be more rallying around the government in the face of the attacks from Israel than they are now questioning the government. Hard to measure, but I would think the reporters would be equally able to find whichever the truth was. And so now we have the prospect, of course, of more dissension within Iran. How they react to this? I doubt they can just sit back and do nothing. But again, the Israelis seem to have a pretty good hold, not just on the airspace, but on assassinating people whenever they start to get comfortable in their new jobs, even if they've only been in them for a day. We go back to Fox, please.
Least 4 massive ordnance penetrators, those 30,000-pound bombs dropped on the Fordo site. You could have had other B-2s engaged in Natanz as well as Isfahan, but you also could have had other fighter bombers. The U.S. Air Force has many bombers at its, and they have smaller bunker buster bombs that are smaller than the MOP, the 30,000-pound bombs. So we'll have to wait and see when the Pentagon or the president decides to share exactly how many planes were involved and what configuration took out these 3 sites. But this, what I would like to say, and from talking to many former commanders who were responsible for this kind of mission, and this mission in particular, I can tell you that their fear is what comes next. And always, as part of this planning for the last 20 years, and there have been war plans here at the Pentagon for years, and in terms of how to take out Iran's nuclear facilities, and they've been honed over the years. But the concern has always been how to position U.S. forces for how Iran is going to react, because Iran still, as significant a blow as this is to its nuclear program, it still has quite a bit of capability.
Switch over to CNN, please.
They still have thousands of shorter.
U.S. officials and others are sending messages to Iran saying, this was it, this was the target, it's not about regime change.
Well, obviously for President Trump, I mean, as he has authorized these strikes, there's one thing that he doesn't want, and that is Iranian retaliation that could potentially draw the United States even deeper into a conflict in the Middle East. That seems to have been the main reason for why he was hesitating about carrying out these strikes in Iran.
All right, joining us now as he works with his lighting and his camera, former Johnson Pentagon official, Nixon White House official, and national security official in several Democratic administrations after that. Dr. Halp, welcome in. What's your initial reaction to these strikes, which have been, as we talked about before you got on, been planned for about 30 years?
And they have been planned for 30 years. I've been involved in planning discussions about this for at least 30 years, probably more. And it's always been the same question, as I think one of your guests just said. What comes next? What comes next in terms of an Iranian nuclear program? Because they will find a way to go forward with this. And I think they'll do it in a way that's much harder to attack than this one was. But it'll take a long time. But I don't think they're going to give up. And the other thing is whether they start attacking American air bases and other bases around the Middle East. There must be a dozen or more of those. It's very hard to protect them. And the question is then, do we get drawn in? And do we break what seems to be the president's firm view that he's not going to go for regime change as the casualties build up and the attacks on Americans continue? The question is whether at some point he gets forced into trying to do it, and then we're back into Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq.
I don't think he'll ever put troops on the ground in this situation, no matter what. I think he'll just do other things.
Well, I think that's what he believes.
Yeah.
But, you get a large American civilian casualties, or something like the Marine.
He'd drop a nuclear bomb on Tehran before he'd put troops on the ground.
Well, that's not any better.
Well, so Roger Wicker, a senator from Mississippi, who's the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, just tweeted, said this: our commander-in-chief has made a deliberate and correct decision to eliminate the existential threat posed by the Iranian regime. This is the key sentence here, I think. We now have very serious choices ahead to provide security for our citizens and our allies and stability for the Middle East. Well done to our military personnel. You are the best. I wonder, do you think anybody, even the squad, will they criticize this, Dan?
I hope they don't. I think if they did, it would be that he didn't seek authorization. I would be surprised if they criticized attacking Iran's nuclear sites. To date, that has been the criticism, that we shouldn't get involved and he needs authorization. But it would be a sad day if they criticized that act.
Dad, in the last 25, 30 years, there's literally no one who's worked more on this question of the War Powers Act than you. So, and I know you've been involved in lots of these efforts. Senator Kaine, who you worked with on this over the years, is still the foremost proponent of pretending they're a co-equal branch and that the War Powers Act is legitimate. Now what does that group do now that this has happened? Can they go to court?
Well, they can only go to the courts. Have been clear that they will not take lawsuits from individuals or even a group of congressmen or senators. The smallest group that they might consider is one house, as if the House of Representatives passed a resolution instructing the Speaker to go into court. The court has never dealt with that case, but probably would grant them state, or the same thing in the Senate. But that's not going to happen, obviously. And anything short of that, they're not going to be able to get into court. And of course, there have been very few calls in the last week when we knew this was coming to say we're in favor of it, but it requires congressional approval, which by the way, I think it does.
Okay. Kyle, welcome in. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind.
How's it going, you guys? I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I just got home from work, and I saw that I got a bunch of news alerts saying that that the United States carried out these airstrikes over on the Iranian nuclear sites. I really have two questions when it comes to this particular event. The first one is kind of more geared towards the Middle East in particular. Like, do you believe that this strike by President Trump is more of just a one-off type thing to focus just on Iran? Or do you think it's to, how do I say this? Try to reestablish some sort of long-term security in that part of the world?
Okay, hold on. Let's answer that one. Dan, thoughts on that one?
So you're asking, is it a one-off, like just pertaining to Iran, or just this one attack on Iran?
It's more of like, is this just going to be a situation where they're going after the nuclear sites? They know that Iran is weakened over the last couple years or so, or do you believe that this is something that's going to try to push the ball forward to try to reestablish some sort of long-term security in that region? And I'm kind of pointing back to the pullout, the withdrawal from Afghanistan when Biden was president.
Yeah. Well, I think we don't know if this will be a one-off in Iran. I think they'll do the assessment of, did they, knock out this facility? Are there any others? But it certainly sounds like it. If they did, I think then, as we've all said, the question is, does Iran respond? And what happens to the regime? And do Israel and or the United States attempt to foment regime change? I think the second part is, this clearly does send a signal that Donald Trump is willing to do what he thinks is necessary for our security and our ally, Israel. But I think he will be judicious and cautious about using military force in this region or anywhere else. It's really going to be, does he really see a clear threat to our country? And does he really see a clear opportunity to make us safer? I do, even as a Democrat, believe that's how he thinks about it.
With us now, our Dan's colleague from the group chat, Emma Morris. Emma, welcome in. What are your initial thoughts about what happens next year?
Well, I think I said this on the group chat, so I encourage everybody to tune in Thursdays at 4 p.m. Shameless
well done,
plug,
Emma.
I'm sorry.
Always be selling.
Sorry,
Always be selling,
but
even during wartime.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting the bag, Mark. Don't worry. But yeah, so I said this on the group chat this week, and I say it again, and it seems like people are starting to catch on. Um, Trump is Trump has said forever that he does not want Iran to have nukes. He tried to negotiate with them. He tried to negotiate with them in his first term. He tried to negotiate with them this time. They honestly had a really good deal, if anybody has a long memory from like a month ago. A good deal for them, that is. And they didn't do it. Like they didn't do it. And they tried to test Trump. And Trump taught them in the first term when he just popped what was his name? Soleimani.
Yeah.
Anyway, like Trump took out their top general just like that and didn't even care about it. And they tested him once again. And I don't think Trump seeks regime change. He's never said that he does. In fact, he said the opposite. I don't think he cares who runs Iran, like most Americans. But he does care whether or not they have nukes. And he said that over and over again for many, many years. And this is him caring.
Senator Risch of
Idaho.
Thank you. Idaho put out a statement. As President Trump has said over and over again, as have I, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, et cetera, et cetera. This war is Israel's war, not our war, but Israel is one of the strongest allies, our strongest allies, and is disarming Iran for the good of the world. I've also always said that Israel would not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. For Israel, this is existential. The Iranians literally want to wipe Israel. Okay, last paragraph. It goes on, but last paragraph. This is not the start of a forever war. There will not be American boots on the ground in Iran. This was a precise, limited strike, which was necessary and by all accounts was very successful. As President Trump has stated, now is the time for peace. Emma, and then Dan. Presidents normally don't like to take things off the table regarding national security, but Emma, should the president say tonight in his remarks that there'll be no American boots on the ground?
No, I don't think he should. And like that's not something that he would do. You know, I think we all know him well enough to know, I mean, the people who follow him and really listen, you know, and don't try to just kind of get him on everything he says, but really do understand him, which Mark, I think you are one of those people. Know what he wants. They know what his priorities are and what they aren't. But they also know how he is, which is he never ties his hands, let alone himself. And I think that he sees making any declarations one way or another would be doing that. Again, I don't think that he has any intention of sending troops there. But I also don't think he has anything off the table because he never does.
Right. Dan, just wild speculation. How long do you think the president, like, will this be a long speech, short speech, medium? How long do you think he'll talk?
I think it'll be short. I think it'll be to the point. And I totally agree with Emma that I don't think he will completely write it off, but I think he will stress that our intent is to not nation build. Like I think he will say the right things. But now we have to see what happens next. And he's got to keep cards in the back of his pocket.
I do wonder, more statements now are coming in. So far, I've just seen, with the exception of John Fetterman, Republican statements.
I'm looking on the Democratic side up and down, and I still haven't seen any.
But what's interesting is I can't believe they weren't coordinated because they're all kind of on the same page. And I wonder if they were when they started that, right? If they maybe have been super sophisticated to start, coordinating statements saying, when and if this happens.
Well, Mark, and I think we do have to also admit that, the New York Times had there was an op-ed, I think it was yesterday, going after Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Where are you guys? Why aren't you standing up on the War Powers Act? I think those two, I'm really curious to see what both of them say, that they're here in New York, large Jewish populations for both of them in their district and obviously in the state. They're taking a ton of heat from the base. What do they say?
Yeah. Cody, unmute, welcome in. Thanks for joining. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Emma and Dan.
Hi there. Thank you very much. I am a first-time speaker. I'm not a listener. I've been listening since the very beginning. I don't live in the United States, actually. I'm from a city just outside of Toronto, Canada. And I really want to thank you for this platform that you created, because for people like me who like to see what happens south of the border, it's been really informative, especially throughout the 2024 election. My question is more broadly. Trump was at the G7 summit here in Alberta, and he left abruptly to deal with this situation. So my question is to you guys is, what do you think the reaction of world leaders are going to be from people in the G7?
Great question. Most of the members of G7 are probably asleep, so we may not hear till tomorrow. Emma Jo, thoughts on that?
Well, the G7 kind of gave this united statement. I think when Trump left, kind of saying that we support no nuclear Iran. And I think that they're going to end up just going with whatever goes down. I mean, that is their form, that's their natural tendency, and really they don't have much of a say otherwise. So rather than being undermined publicly, they ought to just say, I support whatever.
Yeah, and I think their silence against Israel the last few weeks has been noticeable. And I think, Mark, you've made this point here kind of all week that, for all the heat Israel's taken in Gaza and still does take on Gaza, there has been kind of almost, unanimous silence in opposition. So I would imagine they won't say, like, they won't applaud Trump, but I don't think, to Emma's point, they're going to criticize him either.
Yeah.
So do you think, is it fair to say that what the German chancellor said, which was pretty interesting, he said that, I think something along the lines of that the United States was doing the dirty work. So do you think that that's generally going to be the position then, that they're just going to accept what's going on and just move on?
He said Israel was doing the dirty work. Was what the chancellor said.
Israel was doing the dirty work. Sorry, yes.
Go ahead, Dad.
Yeah, I think they will, because look, the reality is that if you participate in attacking Iran, then you run the risk of Iran retaliating. And Europe has seen cases of terrorism, whether it's the bus blowing up, I think it was in London, and I think there's one in Paris as well. Like, they have their own domestic tensions around.
Dan, sorry to interrupt. The president, as he's been doing of late, is doing phone calls with reporters. At least one so far, even before his 10 o'clock Eastern Time speech. He tells Barak Ravid, the Axios Middle East expert, tells me in a phone call, quote, "We had great success tonight. Your Israel is much safer now." That's at least the first quote from that. So we'll keep watching that Twitter feed to see what else is there. Cody, thank you. Dan, finish up if you would.
No, that's it.
Okay.
And if Mark mutes and he's taking a call, folks, get excited. Donald Trump's coming on the phone.
Maybe we'll see. Megan, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
Hey guys, I'm from Arizona. That's where I vote, but I'm in Kentucky now, closer to your time zone, which is nice. I just was thinking, Dan, I've been really tracking with you this whole time, leading up to the FYI. I'm not feeling very good right now. I'm not happy that this happened. I have a sinking feeling in my stomach because I was in high school when 9/11 happened, and a lot of my peers, went to Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I just don't have a good feeling. But I couldn't help but thinking tonight how much I wish I could have that signal chat with JD Vance right now. Like, if someone could get in the signal chat to see what some of these other cabinet members really honestly think about this, and if there is, complete sort of consensus here. When JD was talking about the Houthis with that attack, he was like, whoa, guys. This kind of goes against what we were just saying in Europe.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if you think there's any sort of like faction in the cabinet about this move.
Emma or Dan, thoughts?
Yeah, I think for sure there is, and that's good. And the one thing that group chat gave, I think, a lot of people confidence about is there is tension, there is honesty, there is, people speaking up saying, hey, you need to think twice about this, and I'm not so sure. That's what I would want from my government, Democratic or Republican, that whoever the president is hearing, here's why you should, here's why you shouldn't. And, this is why they stand on the ballot. They get to make that decision. But I mean, Emma Jo, you and Mark would know better than I this administration, but I have to imagine, given the way J.D. Vance has been somewhat silent other than his one tweet, and I think he did that because, look, if this goes sideways, Donald Trump will pay a price in history and J.D. Vance will pay a price at the ballot box. So he has it. Yeah.
Hold on. I got it. Hold on one second. I have to read you a tweet from a member of Congress. Every time America is on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war. There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. Israel is a nuclear armed nation. This is not our fight. Peace is the answer. Emma Jo, whose tweet is that?
I actually don't know.
Okay. Dan, I'm going to give you A, B, and C.
I have no idea.
I
think I know, like Rand Paul.
Gentleman from Kentucky, the junior senator from Kentucky.
Incorrect, although only 2 Republicans so far that we know of have spoken out against, and this is not that person. I'm going to read it again. Every time America is on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war. There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. Israel is a nuclear armed nation. This is not our fight. Peace is the answer. So saith the gentle lady from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay.
Quite a tweet. Obviously, most Republicans are now being supportive.
That's bold.
Yeah, it is.
That's bold.
And it's very well written.
Going and counter signaling Trump the second he makes the biggest decision of his presidency. That's bold.
It is. She's got points of view. All right. Let's.
Can I just answer the last speaker?
Yeah. Yes, please.
I'm so sorry I missed her name, and that's so rude. And I'm sorry about that.
It's Megan.
Sorry.
She's still here with us.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I totally feel you, and I'm one of the most triggered people about war because I also grew up during the Iraq War, and it makes my stomach turn imagining having to go through that again. So I totally see that. But just to say, I think I know a lot of the people in the administration who don't have names and faces, and obviously we know the people who do have names and faces. And I just think on the whole, if you think about everybody who kind of works there and is around Trump, I just get the sense that the Overton window is already at a void, a void.
Yeah.
Avoid that at all costs. And then you have JD right up there who, he literally went.
Let me just sorry to interrupt. My apologies. Paul, please get ready to go now to MSNBC. Rachel Maddow is taking over the anchoring at this moment. I'd like to hear how she's framing things.
Emma Jo, if you're going to have to be quiet, this is a good one.
This is MSNBC's ongoing special breaking news coverage. I'm Rachel Maddow. If you're just tuning in, we are following the breaking news that U.S. bombers carried out strikes today at 3 Iranian nuclear sites. One at Natanz, a site that had previously been hit by Israel. Israel and Iran have been trading strikes since Israel's surprise attack last Friday. Israel has already attacked the site at Natanz. Now the United States has done so as well. Another nuclear site near Isfahan.
Straightforward so far.
And also, according to the president, the facility called Fordo, which is a deeply buried facility. And that's important tactically because the U.S. military is believed to have essentially unique targeting capacity to hit a site like that. It is a deep underground facility. The United States has essentially developed weapons specifically to target facilities.
Anderson
like
is anchoring on CNN now,
and 2 bombers that have
Hannity is on Fox.
Have reportedly carried out these strikes tonight in Iran are aircraft with capacity that no other military in the world really has. Now, common wisdom about this president, about the political movement that he leads, is that he is supposedly isolationist, that he is supposedly anti-war. that has never been exactly right. That's always been kind of a lazy common wisdom. In less than 6 months back in office, he has
Let's switch over to CNN,
military
please.
action against Panama, against.
Yeah, that's right. We have learned that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu did have a conversation tonight after these strikes occurred. Also, that's according to senior administration officials. And we have also learned that the United States did give Israel a heads up before these strikes occurred. That might be stating the obvious. There has been plenty of communication between the U.S. and Israel. We don't know exactly when Israel got that heads up, but this series of strikes against these 3 nuclear facilities was not a surprise to Israel. And I also want to note, Anderson, that we have not yet heard from any other members of President Trump's administration. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was the first one after Israel's carried out its first strikes against Iran about 8 days ago, said the United States was not involved. We haven't heard from him tonight. He has been in meetings with President Trump at the White House today. And there are questions, as you guys have been discussing, about what this means for the potential diplomatic path forward. President Trump making it clear in the statements that he has put out that he wants to compel diplomacy after these strikes. He said that now is the time for peace. Iran must agree to end this war. But of course, major questions about what that looks like, because it was Israel who carried out these strikes with the tacit approval of the United States.
Mute that for a second.
Right
leave the
Trump
quad up.
administration
Mute that,
officials were
please.
supposed.
Few things. Gavin Newsom tweets following the president's action in Iran. California State Threat Assessment Center is actively monitoring for any potential impacts in California. While there are no specific or credible counter threats, we are aware of this time. We urge everyone to stay vigilant and report what they see. I don't know how long the U.S. will be on, this level of alert and tension at the federal and state level and local, but it's going to be at least a few days. I'll say that. Congresswoman from Arizona, Yasmin Ansari. Dan, are you familiar with the Congresswoman?
I am not. No.
All right. Well, she's a Congresswoman. Here's her tweet. Donald Trump illegally took military action against Iran without congressional authorization, risking dragging us into another endless war. I am calling for an immediate emergency session of Congress to vote on the War Powers Resolution. Congressman Jim McGovern, Massachusetts. This is insane. Trump just bombed Iran without congressional approval, illegally dragging us into war in the Middle East. Have we not learned our lesson?
Who was that? McGovern?
Yeah, that's via Fox's Chad Pergram on Twitter, quoting it.
Here, I'll just tell you, Bernie Sanders just posted, and I guess there's a video team. I learned about Trump's unconstitutional attack on Iran at a large rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Here is my response. He just posted a video with Fight Oligarchy right underneath it.
Bernie did?
Yes. Yep. I'll send it to you guys.
Okay. I was just dealing with one thing. Again, the president.
Mark.
Speaking,
I'm scanning the D's.
Okay. The president speaking again. We said at 10 o'clock tonight, and there's going to be a lot more reaction coming in here. Just give me a moment here to get to.
I'll be curious if the crowd boos or what the crowd's response is here. Sounds like he announced it.
Sounds like who announced it?
Bernie. He was on stage.
Oh, okay. Okay. Peter, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
Well, good evening. Again, you want me to say who I am. I'm Pete Pierce. I am a retired, feel like a broken record. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel, and I retired U.S. Army lieutenant colonel, did a tour in Iraq, military intelligence. I guess the reason I'm coming on is on Thursday, while Dan was pinch hitting for you, I got with the Australians and with Mercedes, and I said that there would be an attack this weekend. I'm not going to take credit for that. I read that on Seymour Hersh's newsletter, and he spelled this out, and he said the main reason would happen this weekend. I thought it would be Friday night. is because he said that the president wanted to make sure that it did not, it would have as limited an impact on the financial markets as possible. When it didn't happen last night, I thought probably he really was going to wait the 2 weeks, and then here we are. So again, I think it's happening over the weekend for the reasons. I guess the one thing, and believe me, I never thought I would say this because most of my life I have not been a big fan of Seymour Hersh, but he is a world-class journalist. I'm wondering if you guys should invite him on to two-way at some point in the future. And he called this. He called this. So that's my 2 cents, gentlemen.
We'll keep inviting him on. He's a very close, longtime family friend. So
there you go.
You think I should be able to book him? Okay. There's a lot coming in my Twitter feed. Do we have the Bernie Sanders thing? Is that available?
I think so.
The video?
They had it queued
We'll
up.
have it in 10 seconds, Mark.
Okay. We can wait. Patient group.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they are rallying around this. They're not attacking the attack.
This is a statement from Donald Trump, quote, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran," etc. I agree. And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard
Keep going.
the second alarming that all of you have just heard.
All right. CBS News reporting that the U.S. reached out to Iran prior to the airstrikes and that the U.S. is not seeking regime change. Fox is reporting that the U.S. dropped 6 of the bunker buster bombs on Fordo. If you're on social media, you will see some incredible images. I don't know if they're true, and so I haven't forwarded them to have them posted, but from credible sources, including what purports to be from Israeli TV, it's not a mushroom cloud, but it's this incredibly glowing mountain. It's quite something. And we'll bring those up if it turns out we think they're true.
Mark, Representative Omar has now posted on X as well.
You want to read that? As has Rashida Tlaib.
Yeah, she's Representative Omar says, quote, "The strikes on Iran ordered by President Trump and executed without congressional authorization mark a dangerous and reckless escalation of an already volatile conflict in the Middle East. Military strikes will not bring peace. They will only provoke more violence, destabilize the region, and endanger U.S. troops and civilians. We've seen what happens when diplomacy is sidelined in favor of bombs. It only brings more death and destruction. Congress,
Go ahead.
Must vote immediately on the Thomas Massie and Tim Kaine's War Powers resolution when we return to session. The American people are tired of endless war. We need to end this madness before more lives are lost."
So you give me an Omar, and I trump you with a Tlaib. Her statement's shorter, but is guaranteed to cause Emma Jo to smile even harder. Here we go, quickly. And then Emma Jo, I want to know what you thought about the Bernie thing in these statements. Here's
I get
Tlaib.
the live Tlaib reaction.
You do. You're subtweeting orally. President Trump sending U.S. troops to bomb Iran without the consent of Congress is a blatant violation of our Constitution. The American people do not want another forever war. We have seen where decades of endless wars in the Middle East gets us, all based on the lies of weapons of mass destruction. We are not falling for it again. Here's the part that's spicy. Instead of listening to the American people, Trump is listening to the war criminal Netanyahu, who lied about Iraq and is lying once again about Iran. Congress must act immediately to exert its war power, blah, blah, blah. Does she regularly call Netanyahu a war criminal? Is that... I don't know. I'm just wondering. Is that new? Emma Jo, what do you think of the Sanders Tlaib Omar wing of the party?
I mean, it's obviously a predictable reaction, and it's predictably out of touch. And these people don't spend, the progressive part of the Democratic Party, for all their virtues, and there are many, in my opinion, actually, non-ironically, seriously. But on matters of foreign policy, they feel like people who have never set foot outside of a university. We always hear, like, Bernie Sanders just said this, where it's like you can't, and they all said the same thing, like, you can't make peace with war and you can't make peace with bombs. And no, that's not true, actually. That's not true. That's obviously not true, and observably so. And this is not WMDs and Iraq. And I refuse to accept that claim. We have no reason to think that. First of all, Iran has openly been making nuclear weapons. There has been much public conversation about this, including with Iran, where they admit this. It's not some sort of speculation or secret that nobody else can see, as it was in Iraq. And second of all, this is not a regime change war. Nobody has gone there. Trump has no interest in that. So to immediately jump to make that comparison, and sometimes I can understand where it comes from, like emotionally, but rationally, that's just not, there's no reason to think that. There is no reason to think that. Trump has never talked about regime change. Listen, the Bush administration was not bashful about wanting to take down Saddam. They were not secretive about wanting to take down Gaddafi. These things usually don't come as a surprise. In this case, Trump has been explicit in saying the opposite, that he doesn't seek regime change. So, progressives are trying to go there. They're trying to inflate this or conflate this with regime change. And I just don't, I don't see it. As I said previously, the last time I spoke, like, I think that the tendency is to err away from war and to definitely not even entertain regime change. I don't see this administration all of a sudden waking up tomorrow and saying, you know what, we have to take out the IRGC. That's a huge leap from where we are tonight.
I agree with that.
Mark, I'll just say, I think that video Sanders put out of him starting to read the statement, in which he stops at Donald Trump saying, "We just successfully completed," and the crowd starts to boo. I don't think Chris LaCivita could have written a better ad that I suspect we are going to see many times in the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
Just one more thing. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't think that allowing Iran to get that bomb would lead to peace. They're not, maybe they're like more rational than like terror groups in the region. They are like a real government, the Ayatollahs and the IRGC, but I wouldn't call them rational fully. You definitely can't trust them with nukes, which is why that's been the US position forever, to not let them have them.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's more peaceful to allow them to pursue the program.
When Obama went after Osama bin Laden, we didn't say he should have had authority. I mean, when we think that there's an imminent, when there's a threat to the United States and you have an opportunity, historically, there's been some deference to a president making a surgical strike.
Lawrence, are you there to ask your question? Let's see. He was there and unmuted, and now he's muted and not there.
Mark, Paul said they're ready with the.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we sort that out. This is a video of again what the U.S. says is a bunker busted Iranian facility.
Wow.
Paul, can you make that full? Can you make that full? Play it again. This wasn't full for me. Here we go. It's worth seeing again. Incredible. I hope it's real. We think it is, but all right. In any event, again, the president speaks at 10 Eastern time. He's already done at least one phone interview. And let's bring somebody else in. Robert. Oops, sorry. Okay, here we go. My apologies. Still working out the system here. Welcome in. Tell folks who don't know that you live in Pennsylvania, Robert. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, and such. But obviously, I didn't vote for any of this. This is not, despite supporting the president throughout the election, any escalation in violence in that way is certainly not what I would have hoped for. That video is extremely frightening. I don't know. I mean, God bless America and God bless the American military, but golly, man. I mean, even Trump has bemoaned the mass destruction capabilities that are in all of the significant militaries of the world, and to be using this like that in that manner, I think is a frightening escalation. I again, it harkens back to the end of the Second World War, at least in the Pacific theater with Japan in 1945. I don't know if the Iranians are going to get the point. I sure hope that they do. And let's get this over with. Let's just get this over with.
Dan, question or
No, I mean,
for Robert
I think,
or comment?
I think, Robert, you speak for a lot of people who are very queasy with this. Do you, Robert, do you believe that it is a worthy goal to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb? Like, does that...
Look, I'm not a Pollyanna with regard to Iran. I think I've dealt with this, and Dan, you've dealt with this from your youth. I mean, I think we all remember during the Carter administration the endless nights of, I think it was Tom Brokaw, I forget who it was, who, would be showing our embassy personnel being ridiculously held hostage. I have no love lost for Iran and such, but again, I think that you reap what you sow. If this is the way we're going to exercise military authority or authority generally, and I know that Teddy Roosevelt had said you need to speak softly but carry a big stick. You gotta every once in a while flex your muscles, but golly, man. Golly, this is one heck of an escalation.
Yeah.
Emma Jo, thoughts?
I think she's back.
Oh, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to walk my dogs. It's breaking news, but we got responsibilities. Sorry, it was dark. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and I also had a bit of a queasy feeling when I watched that. But I think it's important to just point out, maybe this is splitting hairs and sounds stupid, and you can tell me. You got to know me. You can tell me when I'm being stupid. Yeah. But it wasn't our bombs, just to be clear, that were making that explosion. It was their nukes. So, it's not like we nuked them. It looks like that.
I don't know. I don't know that you can say that. It could be anything, but.
I mean,
listen.
I just feel like he was the I'm so sorry. What was your name, sir? I'm so sorry.
I'm Bob.
Bob. Okay, so I feel like Bob was getting sick from, and tell me if I'm misinterpreting you, from seeing that mushroom cloud and being like, whoa. And I was also getting sick from seeing that mushroom cloud and having the same reaction. But I'm thinking, wait, we just bombed their nukes. So it feels like we nuked them, but we just bombed their nukes because we don't want them to have nukes.
No,
Does that just sense a difference?
I understand, and I would cast the same dispersion in a much lesser way on our governor, Josh Shapiro, who's signing artillery shells in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Yes, super gross.
It just, I think this grandstanding and this flexing is it's just not healthy for us long term. I mean, it's just, I understand the point, and God bless America, God bless our troops, but it's quite something. It's quite something. I mean, really.
Thank you. Grateful to you. So again, the president's supposed to speak at 10. still not very much reported by anyone, as I've seen, about what the mission involved, except for the president's broadest of strokes there. And again, we've gotten a fair amount of congressional reaction. Here is, and again, I can't tell you with all my heart and soul we've fully authenticated this, but we've authenticated enough to show it to you here. This is social media. Allegedly, this is Iranian state TV is now displaying a map of U.S. military bases in the Middle East, promising retaliation. Mr. Trump, you started it, and we will end it. That's what reportedly from a good source, Iranian TV, is saying tonight. Okay, another tweet I wanted to read you. Somebody pointed out to me, we've not heard from Schumer or Jeffries yet. And,
no, I keep looking, nor Shapiro, nor Wes Moore, some of the people that I'm very curious.
Steve Bannon says there definitely are some people in MAGA who are not exactly ecstatic about this.
Steve Bannon is talking about Steve Bannon there.
A focus group of everyone named Bannon.
Yes.
Okay, give me 1 minute here.
Mark, I'll be curious too, because Governor Beshear is at the Florida Democratic Party dinner tonight. And I imagine...
Was that a dinner? I thought that was a lunch. Was it a dinner?
Oh, I thought it was a dinner in Hollywood. Okay.
I may be wrong. I read it was a lunch. You might be right. But yes, that's interesting. Jim, welcome in. Thanks for joining. Unmute. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm in Chicago, where it's a lovely 90 degrees. Dan, I hope your cholesterol test went well the other day. I was watching the morning show with your physical.
I'll get it back on Monday.
But, good luck.
We'll have exclusive live coverage of those.
If I'm crying or celebrating,
yeah. I also, since it was brought up about high school, I was in high school during the hostage crisis, and we've come a long way from the helicopters crashing in the desert during the aborted takeoff to our rescue attempt to what we saw tonight. And that gets me to my question. This is not the beginning. This is the end. They no longer have a nuclear capability anymore, if we are to believe the damage that was done today. And we're done. We're going to pull out, let them decide what they want to do, but they no longer pose a threat to the region because they don't have nuclear capability. Am I wrong in thinking that way? I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Either of you thoughts on that?
I mean, that's exactly what I think the point of this was. It wasn't like we've said, like everyone has been saying the same thing kind of. It's like no one's trying to knock the country out or take them off the map or like nothing crazy. Just you can't have nukes. Trump has said that exactly that, only that, nothing more. And I think that was the point. It's just break their nukes.
Yeah, I think it's over. I think it's over. That's why I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
And just one more thing. If you look back on like other Trump military actions in the past.
Sorry, Emma, I apologize again for interrupting. Go to Fox, please, as quick as we can. See Senator Tom Cotton.
Launchers and radars, but they have not targeted the political leadership itself, the supreme leader and those immediately around him. They have not targeted those oil refineries, other critical infrastructure as a signal to the Ayatollahs that there's much more damage to be done if they try to retaliate against Americans in the Middle East or elsewhere. That's why President Trump has said tonight on social media, and I suspect he'll say again in a few minutes from the Oval Office, that it's in Iran's court now to decide whether there's going to be peace or whether there's going to be further war. I hope the leaders of Iran understand at this point that Donald Trump does not bluff, that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu together mean business. And they have ended Iran's nuclear program, which was the key military objective that America has had for years. And it took Donald Trump to finally do so.
We can't understate what Israel has done in this case, and Israel has shown that there's only so many missiles you can fire into their country, but they were able to sneak in drones for the initial attack that they had against Iran. They took out their top scientists. They've taken out their top generals. In the last 24 hours, they took out Iranian Revolutionary Guard generals, top generals that they had there. They were able to knock out their missile defense system. They opened up the skies. The Israelis controlled the skies, which...
So we told you a little earlier that the president had one phone call with an Axios reporter. Well, now there's at least two. Jonathan Karl says, 10 minutes ago, I spoke to the president. He didn't talk details or next steps, but he wanted to say this, quote, tremendous success tonight. So that's what happens sometimes. You get the president on the phone. It's not a big exclusive. Okay, I'm just making sure there's nothing on TV that we want to dip into. Seeing nothing urgent there. Let's bring Sue in. Sue, welcome in. Thank you for coming. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
Thanks, Jim.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Jim.
Hi, I'm in North Carolina, coastal North Carolina. I had a question for you guys, especially I'd love to hear your feedback on this. Being that we had SCOTUS decisions leaked, I find it really odd that a lot of members of Congress have come out, saying that, why weren't we informed? This is a problem. It's unconstitutional, blah, blah, blah. Whether we voted in Trump or not, he's the executor, and we trust him, or should, as president, to make these decisions. I just feel like there's a huge trust issue all the way around that, people don't necessarily trust after the WMD thing in Iraq, don't trust, the government to make those decisions. I get that too. But at the same time, I don't want troops and other things in harm's way because things are leaked before, the mission is completed.
Dan.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's a great statement, because there's a balance, right, between if the president believes that he or someday she has an opportunity to do something, in the moment to protect the United States, it just doesn't make sense to try to call Congress back and put a bill on the floor and pass it through the House, and get it back. So the assassination of Osama bin Laden is a great example, right? Secrecy was of the utmost importance. The element of surprise was the utmost importance, and we did it. And I think this would be something similar. That said, we don't have exclusive power to the president. He or she should be kept in check by a duly elected body of government, so that we don't get a quagmire or something where they're going off. So sorry, Mark, are you?
No, that's okay. Just a couple news things want to inject here. Israeli media is reporting, Channel 12 News, massive and devastating damage was done to Fort Al. And several people are now reporting, U.S. and Israeli media, that the B-52s that we all spent the day talking about taking off from B-2s, I keep saying B-52s, thank you, myself. The B-2s that flew west were decoys, and the whole world was tracking those B-2s. There was others flying east that actually dropped, and more congressional reaction, relatively predictable. There's one Democrat from a Trump district, Congressman Don Davis of North Carolina. Iran is the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism and must be prevented from developing nuclear weapons. A nuclear-armed Iran poses a dire threat not only to the U.S., blah, blah, blah. We must not underestimate the danger Iran presents, but doesn't say anything about the president and what he thinks. Still
nothing from Schumer.
Yeah. Tim Kaine, predictable tweet. Not mean to diminish it.
Oh, here, Hakeem Jeffries just posted.
Read that, please.
My statement: Donald Trump promised to bring peace to the Middle East. He has failed to deliver on that promise. The risk of war has now dramatically increased, and I pray for the safety of our troops in the region who have been put in harm's way. President Trump misled the country about his intentions, failed to seek congressional authorization for the use of military force, and risks American entanglement in a potentially disastrous war in the Middle East. First, the Trump administration bears the heavy burden of explaining to the American people why this military action was undertaken. Second, Congress must be fully and immediately briefed in a classified setting. Third, Donald Trump shoulders complete and total responsibility for any adverse consequences that flow from his unilateral military action.
Okay. Here's
Can I just ask a question super quick?
Yes. Although I need to read something about Sean Hannity, your friend. So.
Oh yeah, he is my friend actually. Love him.
Go quick so I can read this.
My question is, where were all of these outrages? Where was this outrage when we were getting neck deep in Ukraine and we were egging on a fight and giving weapons and giving money and giving everything short of our teenage guys to that conflict, which I think the escalation in that conflict was much more dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, Iran has virtually no capability right now. That's pretty obvious based on the attacks that they've launched on Israel. They've been virtually ineffective. Obviously, every life lost is, I don't want to minimize that, but I just mean the response to it was not equal to what they got. And this is now some sort of like every single Democrat is getting in line. The whole Bernie house is like burning down over this. And where was one modicum of this, let's say, sobriety and measuredness when we were engaging in Ukraine /R currently?
Dan.
Marcus, I think you have a statement to read, right? No, I know. I mean, look, I think it's a great point. I mean, obviously they authorized appropriations. So Congress did, weigh in to some extent, but you're right.
Weighed in and decided they were going to go toe to toe with Russia.
Well, and like, look, obviously we supplied the weapons to somebody else who fired them, but it's splitting hairs. I agree with you. Look, I think this is a knee jerk, right? This is, if Trump says left, like, we're going to say right. We have to find a way because our base is so angry to just attack them.
Yeah. Sorry. I thought I had read the Hannity thing, but now I realized, of course, I hadn't. So here's what Sean Hannity said. Number 3, to news person to talk to the president. I just spoke to the president. It appears the United States just completely obliterated Iran's top secret nuclear facility with 6 huge bunker busting bombs. 2 other nuclear sites were wiped out with 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched by subs from 400 miles away. So I'm sure we'll get more operational details, maybe from the president himself. He likes a good hardware yarn. And again, the president's due to speak in less than 30 minutes, and we'll be with you through then and maybe beyond. We'll see. Carol, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind after you unmute.
Hi, I'm the marriage therapist. So can I just share a little bit what I learned from doing deep work that I feel like helps us understand at least why I can be a person who likes peace, but I can vote for this. When I work with couples and try to really help them deeply connect, one of the things that a lot of people try to do is just do avoidance and just be passive and, oh, whatever you want is correct. And so I've learned from that doesn't create safety, it doesn't create good, it doesn't create connection. And so when I see people that, God bless them, I believe it's good intent. Hey, don't do wars, don't fight back. Like everyone has to have all the moves. And that's one thing I like about Trump is that he has all the moves. Like he does want peace, but when there's a time, you need to be able to pivot and speak up and do what's right, even if it's messy, even if it isn't what you would first want to do. And I try to help people do that all the time. Like you have to have a voice in your partnership or you won't be close. And so I'm applying that to this situation. And so I just want to say that to all of my pacifist friends, like it doesn't work all the time. Yeah. You have to have a voice and you have to call out and you have to be able to read a situation. That's one thing I appreciate about Trump.
Thank you for that. Emma Jo, thoughts? And Dan's already applauded, but Emma Jo.
Yeah, well, this actually, I think that's like so true. And listen, I'm not a warmonger. I'm not a neocon. I do not like any wars at all. I voted for Trump 3 times and I support him on his foreign policy, which is obviously prudent. But that said, it's 100%. And this is something that I was kind of getting to before, but we cut into cable. Trump has a track record of doing stuff militarily. This actually kind of reminds me of the strike in Syria. If anyone recalls, which by the way, I was freaking out about that. And I learned my lesson that I shouldn't have at the time, because he was told that they were using some sort of chemical weapon in Syria. And I don't know if anyone remembers this. It was during the first term. And then he went and bombed some port or something, or some airfield or whatever. And anyway, he kind of unleashed on Syria, but he stopped there. And his reasoning at the time was, I said that was a red line and they violated it, and then I had to respond, and then that's it. So I think that Trump actually does have that mentality exactly, where it's like he draws boundaries and enforces them. That doesn't mean that he goes and goes 10 miles after the boundary. It just means that he enforces the boundary that he had set. And I think that that's his style, and it's totally sensible and restrained, but also principled. And that's how he operates, and we can draw on the past to see how he operates that way.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, Carol, it's just a really kind of interesting and smart way to think about it, and to think about how other people could be perceiving the pivot. And as you say, you're a little bit more on the pacifist side, but you support this action and you support Trump. And as we always try to seek to understand why someone is appealing and why people can trust him or her, I think I'm going to steal that. I'll credit it to you, Carol, but I'm going to take that. It was really well said.
Carol, thank you. Grateful to you. Tommy Vietor. Dan, tell everybody who Tommy Vietor is.
Oh, yeah. He worked for Barack Obama. He's part of the group of young aides that have gone on to become, media celebrities a little bit here. What is he said?
Tommy's tweeting this, which is Noah, our colleague, points out is a great distillation of how the Obama wing of the Democratic Party feels. Obama's Iran nuclear deal was working until Trump pulled out of it. His own staff warned him not to because the alternative was war. Well, now we're at war with Iran because Trump is weak, stupid, and hated Obama more than he cared about preventing Iran from getting a nuke. Iran might retaliate today, tomorrow, or in months, or a year from now. Or Iran or its proxies might blow up a bus filled with American tourists in Cyprus. No one knows what comes next. Bombing Iran started something that we no longer have the capacity to predict or contain. I'm not sure that's true, but as I said, it could be true, but we don't know that it's true.
I mean, look, I will say this. I think, and I said this on the morning meeting, and I think I'm going to say it on the group chat. There is a lot of frustration in Obama world over so many things that Trump attacked Obama on. You go back to the birther movement, everything, right? Like the tension between those camps has been immense for over a decade, right? Michelle Obama still will never forgive Donald Trump for the birther attacks. What Trump was trying to do recently was very similar to the initial Obama deal. So I do understand their frustration that, part of the initial attacks in 15 and 14 were on that Iran deal. And it's, there is some irony that Trump was then trying to do another deal that was very similar to the initial, but to then go off about, the rest of this. Look, folks, you're going to say he owns everything. Then if this is a success, he gets all the credit and we have all the egg on our face. This is just the knee jerk.
Emma?
I don't really have anything to add. I think
that's fine. You can stop there.
I don't have
You
anything to
got
add.
Dan
nothing to add?
Strange, my colleague, Thursdays at 4. Yeah, that's good, Emma.
Jeff, welcome in.
Saving it for the group chat.
Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind. Thank you for being part of it.
I'm Jeff from Troy, Michigan, suburb of Detroit, Oakland County, and been listening for about a month and a half. Find you guys very engaging. I guess I've been putting in the chat. Go ahead, guys. Congress gave Trump and all presidents the ability to use military force because the 2001 authorization of military force is still in effect. And if they wanted to get serious, and I believe they should, revoke that use of military force and restore some balance. But right now, any president can go adventuring abroad, seeking monsters to destroy, under congressional approval, as is. One thing, just to let you know, I do have a military background. I'm a military history degree, and I've always been involved in geopolitics. The first 24 hours after an event like this is always revised substantially. So just let's wait a little bit for that. Three things I'm looking for right now. Number one, of course, is the Iranian reaction. What will they do? Will they hold back and then strike later on? Will they kind of pause and take breath? The second thing I look at, quite honestly, is the reaction on the, I'll call it the Arab street or the Muslim street. Surprisingly, right now, it's been very muted up until this point. And I believe if it's just nuclear sites, it probably will stay that way, but I'm looking for that. And then third, and I think more important, is the Russian reaction to all this. Now, Putin did say that, hey, I want to enter into strategic alliance with you for defense, but the Iranians turned him down. I think they wish they probably would have reconsidered that proposition. But remember that Trump-Putin call right after the Israeli event? Kind of makes me suspicious in the back of my mind that Trump said, I'll let you have Ukraine. You let me have Iran. So we'll have to see how all that plays out. And finally, no bombing campaign ever. Starting from World War II with the British, the Germans, and the Japanese, all the way forward to Vietnam, no bombing campaign has ever caused regime change. So anyone who talks and whistles is just whistling past the graveyard with that. Thank you.
Well, you raised a ton of good points, and I'll let my colleagues pick up on what they want to. But on your last point, I'll let David and folks. He put a lot of stuff out there. What do you want to respond to, Dan?
I think you make a lot of good points, Jeff. And just to be full disclosure, I was trying to look for Chuck Schumer for a second there because someone just said he said something. But I think you make a lot of good points.
Emma.
Jeff, that's super smart. And I think that the Arab reaction is going to be very interesting and probably very low key. Because keep in mind, Trump just got back from the Gulf states and he just got back from, let's say the leadership in the Levant and the Arab world. And he told them that they can open up Syria and have and commerce and like an economy in that country, which they've been dying to do and have been able to do under Assad. And he is just looking to invest and trade and do business. And these countries all are interested in moving past oil and are interested in getting into AI. He had Altman there, he had Elon there. I don't think that they feel like dying on the Iran hill, a country that they have no love lost for.
I think that's true for the I think that's true for the leadership. I'm talking about the street. I'm talking about common blue collar, agrarian, rural worker. That leadership is tired of this. In fact, I think one of the reasons why Hamas did October 7th is because Israel and Saudi Arabia were very close to coming to some sort of diplomatic recognition. And honestly, I think the entire Middle East is tired of the Palestinian problem being an anchor. It's been 80 years moving on, so we'll see.
I mean, I wonder what that looks like because again, like
we don't know.
These aren't free countries. So like how does that expression happen? And I ask that genuinely. Because the leaders don't feel, I don't think, accountable to the people. I mean, obviously they need to maintain legitimacy. But in terms of reaction to this, I mean, I wonder. I don't know. But all I know is like I don't think that they're gonna go and freak out at least not the leaders because they just got a really good deal with Trump and I don't think that they want to disrupt it.
Jeff, thank you. Grateful to you. Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Our Father of the Year and Capitol Hill correspondent, Mark Bednar's back, who knows a lot more about Capitol Hill than we're able to find just anybody off the street. So, Mark, welcome back.
No way. Is Mark Bednar in the chat?
Right
you missed him earlier. He was on. He had his son.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Hey, Jam.
I want to see the dog. I'm sure the son is very cute.
She's right here. So yeah,
Mark, welcome back. Do you want to tell us about the good night story, or?
I think an interesting story of the night, which I think probably put Sam to sleep, was An observation that I had about a member of Congress from Illinois, Sean Casten. He's in a D+3 seat. And what we've seen all night is a lot of tweets from Democrats who are, kind of like instinctively, reflexively calling on a war powers resolution to be voted on. And that's akin to a pickoff move to first base. If the opposing team, you have to boo. And if it's your team that's throwing a pickoff move, you just cheer because it's part of the game. So that's to be expected. But Sean Casten, in his recent tweet, said that this was an unambiguous, impeachable offense by the president. And he's in a D+3 seat. This is not a member of the squad. So I would just be very curious for folks' reactions for somebody who's in a very tight purplish seat to be calling this such an unambiguously impeachable offense. What does that do to the temperature within the Democratic caucus? And how does D-Trip feel about this right now too?
Great
analysis. I mean, I'm just go ahead. Sean, I mean, thanks for sending this, Mark. And I'm reading. I mean, he has a lot of tweets here. I mean, he's putting up a tweet storm of thoughts, including saying he doesn't dispute Iran as a nuclear threat. That's in tweet 3 or 4. I agree. I mean, here we go again. The Democratic Party is making process arguments. All of these statements are the process of should he or should he have not. But no one is disputing that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. That has been a stated position of the United States government, of many Democrats. I don't know the Democratic Convention platform, but I, would be surprised if that wasn't in there. And so, as you say, the fact that the knee jerk is just, we can't say anything nice. We have to find a way to attack them. Like, I get it, but there are just moments I think you just say, God bless the troops. We're glad they got out. We're glad that it was a successful mission. He should come to us. Like, then you can pivot to, we expect a full briefing and we would hope if this is going to go further that he is, we demand he seek our approval. But this is the state of the party today is the tail wags the dog, and the base is just outraged.
Let me just read you a few things again. AOC says this is grounds for impeachment. Eric Swalwell says Congress should have been briefed, voted on, and able to set parameters on this action. I don't trust Donald Trump for 1 second to prosecute this conflict. He ran. I'm not sure what that means. Emma Jeff.
Well, Mark, can I just ask you though?
Yeah.
So if you're Chuck Schumer, you've been silent, and now you see where the wave is building, right? The person you're afraid of, AOC and others, his silence now may start costing him, because I don't know how he doesn't take some of this energy and put it in his statement.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll go as far as impeachment, but I bet.
No, yeah, I mean, not that.
Pretty hard
like,
that way. Yeah,
he's boxing himself in.
Yeah, Emma.
Yeah, I mean, let them go impeach him. Let them impeach him. And I mean, it's just these people, they're
It's
not,
insane.
they can't get it together. And I honestly, it's not even, I don't say this with pleasure. I really don't. I wish that there was real opposition, that was serious and thoughtful. But impeach him for bombing a country? He's the president. I don't know. I mean, again, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this is some sort of declaration of war that I haven't read in the tea leaves. But I mean, I'm pretty sure presidents have done operations to bomb countries before without talking to Congress about it and getting AOC's take. Otherwise, they get impeached. That doesn't seem right. And it just seems like another non-issue that they are going to glom onto, a silly issue or a silly point that they're going to insist on, just for the sake of being oppositional and in a reactionary way that gets that inspires and gets the support of exactly no one.
Mark. Oh, sorry, you're muted. Go ahead.
I still, it's even with the tail wagging the dog, the fact that this guy is in a purple seat, this is like that to me. What are everyone else in the, the now, what are we under, 15, 20 swing seats left in the country? But, what are all those Democrats or Democratic candidates thinking right now over the course of what are they supposed to say?
Yeah, I mean, and I said this earlier, I keep watching Wes Moore now. Like, what does he say, right? Because he's got the military credentials. Even though he's not running, certainly taking some steps. But you're right, Mark, like that Michigan Senate race. Now you have Haley Stevens, a moderate. You have a Muslim candidate. You have the woman, the state senator, who, is trying to rally progressives because of her stance on choice in the past. Like, this is a challenge.
Go to MSNBC as quick as you can, please. It's now Rachel Maddow in colloquy with Nicole Wallace. I want to see what their position is.
You're curious about Nicole Wallace's take?
The G7 meeting where
I did.
seemed to have had a hard time in terms of engaging with other G7 leaders. And then he was supposedly rushing to the Situation Room. That was around the time that he was saying evacuate Tehran. Then we got him saying that he was going to have one of these magical 2-week intervals, during which time he was going to decide what he was going to do. We had him reject overtly the conclusions, the reported conclusions of the U.S. intelligence community as to whether or not Iran had recently done something that might have precipitated some sort of crisis that would necessitate a response from Israel or from the United States or from anybody. He has, said bizarrely
it's a long
to
question.
reporters almost in a teasing way, nobody knows what I will do. As if this is some sort of game show
Nicole has
reveal,
had to
rather
keep her
than
gaze
Don't
here.
make Mark wait for Nicole any longer.
With a very capable enemy in a country that's near.
And with that, Nicole Wallace.
I just feel like there's
She's still going.
disorienting.
And if I may add, just one more thing.
Incoherence and freneticism about the president, even on an emotional level.
Is that how you see it, Nicole?
They taught her at Oxford.
This issue, and now we've bombed
Is
Iran.
that how you see it, Nicole?
Don't they know we're all waiting for Nicole Wallace?
Like that, I don't know of anything like that.
3, 2, 1, Nicole.
Well, and my most helpful frame is Trump's first term and what we're seeing unfold. Because in the first term, a lot of the great books that came out and a lot of the great reporters that we both have on our shows really flushed out what wasn't known at the time, which was John Kelly's role in averting any sort of military calamity with North Korea. He worked for Donald Trump when he tweeted, "Watch out, Rocket Man," the beginning of his first term, and spent an inordinate amount of time trying to de-escalate what you're talking about, Trump's outward rhetoric, which is usually a direct reflex or reflection of something he's feeling or thinking about a topic. And so I think what we're seeing unfiltered is the absence of someone like that. And I'm not saying there isn't anyone working on de-escalation, but we know that there aren't the kinds
Oh my God.
All I want to say, besides to give Emma Jo a chance to say what she thought about that, is I don't read the chat, but occasionally I glance at it, and I see a lot of smack in there about Nicole Wallace. I'll say again, if you come to this platform because what you're expecting or what you want is to only hear people talk with the same ideas as you do, go watch something else, because you're going to hear lots of ideas you may not agree with here. And the whole point is to understand. Even if your only motivation for understanding is to collect intelligence to destroy the enemy, even then I say, better you come listen. But my hope would be that you would listen with an open mind. You would listen with the sense of, well, there's tens of millions of people in the country who disagree with me. I'm not saying I showed you Nicole Wallace, so I thought that was going to give you the fair and balanced take on what happened tonight. You should know what Nicole Wallace thinks about this if you want to live in America. That's what I would say. And I'd say it about, I'd say it about anybody on Fox or even CNN. Emma Jo, what did you think of the Rachel and Nicole colloquy?
It's true. And actually, I watch a lot of MSNBC for that exact reason. Just for the record. And I love Nicole Wallace. I actually was so happy when you put her on. Yeah, I don't understand how she says that. Like that John Kelly was the only voice in the old administration who wasn't interested in a foreign war and had to restrain the Trump who was chomping at the bit to go to war with North Korea. And now this time that there's no John Kelly and who in this administration could be opposed to a war with Iran. That seems silly. It seems like it's intentionally obtuse, actually. There's no way she actually feels that way. I can't imagine. because obviously this administration and the senior people in this administration, like Tulsi Gabbard, like J.D. Vance, like Pete Hegseth, basically everybody dealing with this right now is extremely repulsed by the idea of going to war with Iran, probably more so than John Kelly ever would be. I don't know John Kelly personally, but based on the public statements of all the people I've just mentioned, I don't think that there's no sobriety in the room regarding war with Iran right now. I think that's a kind of a funny thing to say.
Statement. Real quick. Sorry, Dan. Real quick. Statement from Netanyahu. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel, thank you. The forces of civilization, thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel, and God bless our unshakable alliance. Dan.
Good short statement. Yeah, I mean, I want to be clear. I do not think in any way, shape, or form that Trump is a warmonger with regard to Iran. Like, I think we did this. If we are attacked, he'll, observe what's happened and, have a response. But I think a lot of things about Donald Trump, but I do not see him as a trigger-happy warmonger. If anything, I see him as the complete opposite. I think he's very hesitant to use force because he likes to always, control stuff and win, and he doesn't like bloodshed, as Sean Spicer is always saying.
Yeah, it's 9:57 Eastern time, and in 3 minutes, the president's going to talk. We still don't know very much. We've got a few statements in reaction, but in terms of facts, we know that the B-2s that launched went out from Missouri were decoys meant to think that Iran had more time. And instead, the B-2s that actually carried out the mission came from the other direction. We know that the president is reported to have talked to the Iranians before the attack and said, we're just attacking these sites. We're not looking for regime change. And we know the president, Benjamin Netanyahu, spoke and not much else. So we're going to do this. We're going to, right at 10, we're going to throw it over to the president. And we'll watch it together, but we're not going to come back. So you're welcome to watch it here on our dime, or you can go watch someplace else. But we won't come back after the president's remarks. But we will continue to monitor the story, and of course, we'll do more of these special reports for breaking news as news warrants, and that's forever and ever, not just on this story. So, Mark, thank you for joining us. Love having you on. Please come back regularly.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
And I just want to say before we go to Trump, Mark, kudos
Yeah.
for organizing this and kudos for putting it together. I know people are really happy online and everything. Bravo. And to the whole team.
Yeah, appreciate all my
Does
colleagues.
Mark work at two-way? Oh, Mark Halperin, not Bednar.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
He should work at two-way.
It's late.
Grateful,
grab a drink.
Grateful to all our colleagues here at Two-Way for scrambling to put this on, and grateful to you all for jumping on. We've done some breaking news stuff over the course of the company being on the air for about a year, but we'll be doing more, and we aspire to do more. So grateful to you for joining and being part of this, and turn it over now so you can watch the coverage. Thank you for joining. Good night.
Forward for what he wants to see in the Middle East. A little bit what you were just talking about, Anderson. I mean, where does he see this going? His theme is peace through strength. He's done this unprecedented operation, and then where does he see it going? I think we will hear him say he still wants to deal with Iran. He has no animosity towards the Iranian people. But a president as powerful as he is, I got to step back. He will not be in control of the events here over the coming days. Decisions made in Iran, whether they're coordinated decisions, whether they're one-off decisions by some of their proxies, could set a course of events. We have to be ready for that. But I suspect he will emphasize, as we just heard from Natasha, this was a limited operation with a specific objective, and that's it. And then call for diplomacy and a peaceful Middle East. I assume that's what he'll hear. I hope that's where this goes. But as I said, we got to be prepared for the worst while hoping and working for the best. And sometimes if you get in the middle, that's not bad. But these next few days will be quite something. These are unprecedented times.
Yeah, they certainly are. We'll talk to you after the president's address. It is 10 o'clock on the East Coast of the United States. It's 5 a.m. here in Tel Aviv. We got word of this attack through the president's social media post, which occurred just a little bit more than 2 hours ago. Remarkable given the diplomacy that we saw take place on Friday in Europe, which didn't seem to go anywhere. Whether this was the president's plan all along in setting within 2-week window, it certainly has apparently, according to the U.S., been an effective strike. We're going to hear from the president now momentarily, and we'll have more reporting as soon as he's done. We're waiting for the president to speak here with Jeremy Diamond as well as Clarissa Ward. This is a talk which is not only going to be, here's the president coming now. Let's listen.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was well done.
President Trump speaking from
All right, good night,
the
everybody.
White House. Want to bring